In the summer of 1953, in the Mojave Desert of California, a visitor from another planet took an aircraft mechanic aboard its craft and showed him a machine. He came back down and spent the rest of his life building it. If this is your kind of story, subscribe, there's plenty more where this came from. And none of this is mine. He wrote it down himself. Federal agents wrote it down too, and the building is still standing if you ever want to drive out and see it. His name was George Van Tassel, and he had spent years keeping aircraft in the air for Douglas, Hughes and Lockheed. In 1947 he moved his family out to the Rock, opened a diner and a dirt airstrip beside it, and in the evenings went down into the rooms a prospector had dug beneath the boulder, to sit in the cool with a few friends and wait in silence for whatever might come. On the night of the 24th of August, 1953, he was sleeping outside, on the ground near the Rock. In the small hours, a man woke him, ordinary height, in a one-piece suit, standing over him in the dark, and spoke to him in plain English. The man gave a name, Solgander, said he came from Venus, and asked whether Van Tassel would like to see his craft. It was a short walk away, round and silent, resting on nothing a few feet above the sand, lit from within. The ramp was already down, nobody hurried him, and nobody spoke until he was at the top. Van Tassel went up. There were others inside, who looked at him and said nothing, and the room he stood in had no corners and no furniture he could name. It was bright in there without a lamp anywhere, and warm, and it did not move under his feet. What happened there did not come to him as speech. He came back down, knowing things he had not known when he went up, how living tissue could be made to renew itself, the shape of a machine that would do it, and the place where it ought to stand. He was told why. Men died too soon, the visitors' people believed. A life was over before the person living it had finished learning anything, and a machine that recharged the body the way a battery is recharged would give them the years they were missing. By first light the craft was gone. He was back on his blanket beneath the rock with the whole of it in his head, and he lay there until the sun came over the ridge, going through it piece by piece so that none of it would slip away. The contact did not end with that night. It went on for years, and most of it came without a craft, voices arriving while he sat in the rooms under the rock, each with a name, speaking in turn. Some nights nothing came, other nights he filled pages before the lamp burned down. He wrote down what they told him and printed it. They were worried about what men were doing with the atom, the bombs being tested in the deserts not far from his own, and they wanted people to know that somebody was watching it happen. The messages came in English, plain as the man's had been, and they kept coming for years. One of the names he wrote down, Ashtar, is still being repeated today by people who have never heard of George Van Tassel. A man with a secret would have gone back to his diner. Van Tassel went to a typewriter. He wrote the visit down, ran off copies, mailed them out, and announced that the next spring he would hold a gathering at the Rock for anyone who wanted to hear more. In 1954 they came. Cars lined his airstrip in rows, people slept in the open, and speakers took turns on a flatbed truck under the boulder. Every spring after that, they came back, and for a few years at the end of the decade, the crowd ran into the thousands. They parked where his planes had landed and slept beside their cars. He stood on the truck bed and told it again, the same way each time, the man in the suit, the walk across the sand, the ramp, and then handed the microphone to whoever had their own account to give. And there were many, men and women from across the country who said they too had been taken aboard, had spoken with someone from Venus or Mars, had been given a message to carry. Van Tassel listened to every one of them the way he had wanted to be listened to. The FBI drove out too. Agents walked the grounds, sat down with him, asked what he was up to and who came to listen. Then went back and typed it up. They wanted to know whether the gatherings were political. They were not, and the file says so. Their report is still on file. If you want to know what else is sitting in files like that one, tell me in the comments which case I should open next. I go through every single one. With the money the gatherings brought in, he began to build. The site lay a few miles from the Rock, on flat ground near Landers, a spot that had been chosen for him, named for what lay under it, water, and lines of force running through the ground there. What went up was a dome, 16 sides, timber, painted white, wide enough to swallow a house. He explained it the way a mechanic explains anything, a structure that would gather charge from the ground and the air and pass it through whoever stood inside, the way a current is passed into a battery. He talked about frequencies and the Earth's magnetic field, and he gave the machine a name, the Integratron. Plans lay open on the hood of his truck. He worked on it himself, with whatever help came out from the rock, and bought timber as the money from the gatherings allowed. The ring of the foundation was staked out in the sand. Then the first timbers went up against the sky, and people driving the desert road slowed down to look. From the road it looked like an observatory with no telescope, set down on the flat and left there. It took the rest of his life. Through the 50s the walls rose, through the 60s the dome closed over, through the 70s he worked inside it, mostly alone. The crowds at the rock thinned year by year, and the money thinned with them, and still every season there was a little more of the machine, and still it was not finished. People drove out to see it and found a white dome on the desert and a man on a ladder. He would climb down, wipe his hands and walk them through it, where you would stand, for how long, and what you would feel when you came out. Asked what it would do, he said what he had said from the start: it would renew the body. Asked when, he said soon. He had said it the year the walls went up and the year the roof closed over, and people stopped asking, and just came. He printed a newsletter and mailed it to the people who had stopped coming, and in it the work always went on. He was past 60 now, and the pilots who had eaten in his diner were grandfathers, and the rooms under the rock where he had first sat waiting had long since filled with sand. Visitors kept coming to see a machine that was always nearly done. In the winter of 1978, George Van Tassel died of a heart attack. He was 67. He had been at the rock for 31 years and at the dome for most of them. The dome stood finished on the outside and close to finished within, and it had never once been run. It had simply never been tried. In the weeks after his death, the interior was emptied, and the papers that explained what he had built went with it. Who came for them, and what was written on them, nobody has put on record. Which pieces went first, and in whose hands, nobody can say. By the time anyone thought to look, the room was a room. The door was locked on a bare wooden floor. The door is open again. The dome is still there on its patch of desert, white against the brown. And on most days people lie on its floor in a circle, while someone strikes quartz bowls and the sound hangs in the wood above them. The building changed hands more than once after his death, and for years it stood locked, until a family bought it in 2000 and opened it up. A few miles off, the rock he lived under is still there too, though in 2000 a slab of it split away from the face and dropped into the sand. The airstrip is a strip of harder dirt among the softer dirt, and the diner is gone. Nobody has finished the machine. The machine he was told to build has done the same thing every day since 1978, which is stand there, waiting for someone to switch it on. This is one man's machine, and one case out of many. Subscribe to see the next one. It is even more fascinating than this.